Hello creatives, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm talking about money and specifically the difference between income, profit and cash flow. Now don't turn me off because you know this is important, and the reason I want to talk about this today is I've been seeing in a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of authors that I've talked to at events that people are getting kind of hung up on screen prints of people's KDP dashboard, the book report screen prints, which look amazing, and also people talking about, oh well, who sold the most books, and putting that kind of emphasis on top selling or best selling. And really, if you want to run a business and you want to make a living with your writing, then it's the income side that is actually really important. And so often people are more concerned with the vanity metrics of how things might look, whereas actually the profit metrics is how you look at things when you're running a business. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So just to be clear, I am not an accountant and this is not financial advice. This is my own experience as someone who has essentially been running their own business for about 15 years now, and specifically with my author business I've been profitable since 2011. I have a big section on this in Business for Authors, so if you're interested you can read that for a lot more detail. This is a chunky book about everything you need in business. But the most important thing we're talking about today is who is selling the most books does not necessarily relate to who is actually taking home the most money. And you have to decide what is your definition of success as we go through this. So let's start with income. So income, which can sometimes be referred to as revenue, it can also be referred to as sales, it can also be referred to as turnover. There are different tiny differences between all of these things, but when we say income for indie authors, this is money that comes into your bank account, and hopefully you have, if you're an established author, you have a separate bank account for your author money. So this will be things like the Amazon income, and this comes from all the different stores. So if you're selling on all the different stores, if you publish on all the stores, you will be available there. If you're actually selling books on those stores, you're going to get all these different payments from Amazon. You're going to get payments from CreateSpace if you're doing print, Ingram Spark, Kobo, iBooks, Drafter Digital, Publish Drive, Smashwords. All these different distributors will be paying you money for the sale of your books. It might also include traditional publishing income if that is a way you've published, and also rights licensing, and if you sell direct you'll be getting money there, or if you're doing things like Story Bundle or Bundle Rabbit you'll be getting money there too. So there are lots of ways that you'll be getting money for your books, and I think you should focus on multiple income streams. We've talked about that before, but we're just going to keep it simple and focus on books today. So your income will depend on, I just have to look at my notes here to make sure I get it all right. How many books you have obviously will impact your income over time. It will go up and down obviously. How many stores you sell in, that will impact the number of income streams. How many formats you sell. So, I should have mentioned one of the income streams being ACX or Authors Republic or Find Your Way Voices, any of these audio production companies. What price you're selling at, and we're going to look at that again in a minute. How well your books are selling, obviously, and the royalty you get. So obviously traditionally published authors will get a smaller royalty, but they may well get an advance against that, so they'll get the money up front, and also they may sell more books. So that will totally depend on circumstance, but all of those things will go into the different, will affect your income levels. So I wanted to just take two examples and we will compare the two. So author A prices their book at 99 cents and sells 1,000 copies at 35% royalty rate because of the 99 cents. They make 35 cents per copy, so their income is $350. Now that's just for sale, so I'm just not counting page reads at all with KU in this in these examples. The main thing being you can't compare all these things, but these are the two we're doing. So 99 cents, 1,000 copies at 35%, the income is going to be $350 US. Author B prices their book at $9.99 and sells 100 copies at 70% royalty rate. They make $6.99 per copy, so their income is $699, which is double that of A. So in this example, author A has this 99-cent book selling 1,000 copies. Author B has only sold 100 copies, but who's made the most money? So if you were comparing, number of copies sold, then author A would sound more successful, but author B has made double the amount of money, and if they sold the same number, they would make nearly $7,000. So this is why when you see authors who are selling books for much higher prices, so for example, Business for Authors, because this book can make you money, this book is sold at a higher price as an ebook than one of my novels, for example, because the value in the book is enough. So that to me is a really important point and something that I think authors are forgetting. If you put things at a much higher price, and for $9.99 as an ebook, you will still be cheaper, especially in non-fiction, than a lot of traditionally published authors. Now for fiction, you can be using box sets to do the higher prices. I'm definitely not suggesting you should be pricing your individual novel at $9.99 as an ebook, but if you think about box sets, you can price those higher and get a much bigger royalty. Okay, so that is an example of income and how pricing can affect the money you're making. The next thing we're talking about is profit. And this is the exciting thing, because profit is income minus expenses. Here's the money left over that, for example, you can pay yourself with. And this is really important if you want to make a living with your writing, because it's the profit that's going to be the stuff you live on. So to sell 1,000 copies of a book, what have you had to spend? So there are sunk costs with any book. Again, take Business for Authors as an example. The sunk costs for the book are editing or proofreading, at least proofreading if you're doing non-fiction. And I have another video on editing, so you can check that out. Cover design obviously is another sunk cost. Formatting, of course you can format yourself, and I've got a Vellum tutorial for that. There's lots of ways you can make these sunk costs a bit cheaper, but especially if you're starting out, you're learning how to write, so your editing costs might be higher. Then of course you might have an author website, you might have an email list, you might go on some training courses or buy some training courses, buy some books, go to networking things, and then there's the marketing. So what we're going to do with the profit idea is just compare a really simple example. Author C makes $2,500 income in a month after spending $1,500 on marketing. And this, I think, would be quite normal for many of the mid-list indie authors around at the moment. So that means their profit, which is $2,500 minus $1,500, is $1,000. Now that doesn't include any of those sunk costs, it's just the marketing. And I think that's the biggest thing that I feel at the moment, is people are not talking about how much they're spending on these things, so they're talking about income rather than profit. Author D only makes, I'll say only, it's a really good income, makes $1,500 from books and spends $200 on marketing. So their profit is $1,300. Now, if you had these two authors doing their screen prints of their book report, one would have $2,500 and would look more successful than the author who made $1,500. So it looks like they made $1,000 less, but actually they made $300 more because of the income and profit difference. So Author C might look more successful, but author D made more profit and has more money in the bank. And personally, as a businesswoman, I prefer to have more money in the bank. So this is, again, something that I think authors need to do. So if you go the traditional publishing route, they will have a meeting and they will do a P&L or a profit and loss for the book in order to decide how to sell it, what price to put on it, what to pay the author, where else to sell it in the world, rights licensing, that type of thing. So I would urge you to think about doing some kind of profit and loss, or at least income and expenses for your business, even if you're not a proper business as yet. Of course, when you've been running as a business for a while, you do this as part of your accounting. But if you're just starting out, this is something to think about. And a number of people have written to me saying, how do you get to that point? And of course, as I said, I started writing in 2006. I started publishing in 2008, and the business became profitable in 2011. So that was, and that happens with pretty much any business. You will not go from zero to profit. You will have to spend some money to build up your assets in order to make a living. Okay, so now let's talk about cash flow, because this is one of those things that can kill a business really fast. And why I'm talking about it in terms of marketing, it's a time difference between when the money goes out and when the money comes in. And this is really important to realize. So, for example, when you sell on a site like, when you sell ebooks, you will get the income 60 to 90 days after the sale. So if you, for a sale in May, you're going to get paid at the end of July, which is practically August, especially if you're overseas and the money takes a bit longer. So what you have to think about is, okay, I've sold that book, but the money won't come for another 2 months or 3 months, possibly for print and for other markets. So, but the advertising has to be paid in the month. So if you do a BookBub or a Facebook ad or Amazon ads in the May, you have to pay that at the end of May, but you're not getting the income until July. So that is really important for cash flow and understanding the ins and outs of the money in your author business. Okay, so those are some really basic things around income and profit and cash flow, but really great news. Fantastic news I have for you, which is the author business is amazing, and realistically we have very high profit margins on our products. And we have very low sunk costs and very low outgoings compared to most businesses. We don't need a brick and mortar shop. We can sell online. We don't need to print thousands of books. We can use print on demand. We can use, and our marketing is incredibly cheap or often free. So these are some of the things that I think are very exciting and why I love the business model of being an indie author. So you have to decide for yourself what type of business you want, or whether writing is just a hobby, and that is completely fine. I urge you to write for whatever reason. But if you want to run a business, then you really do need to understand things like income, expenses, profit, and cash flow. So you can read more in Business for Authors, available in ebook, print, and audiobook. And in fact, this is the only audiobook I narrated myself. So that is available. Now, of course, today's topic has been a little more in-depth, so if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'd love to know what you want to hear about the business side. I do think that there's so much more education needed in the author community around some of these things, so we can kind of cut through the hype and work out how to run really sustainable, creative businesses. Okay, so I hope you found today useful. I'll be back next week with another video. In the meantime, you can subscribe to the channel, and you can also sign up for the author blueprint below or at thecreativepenn.com/blueprint. Happy writing. I'll see you next time.